have earned record or near record profits in the past few years. But they still receive about $5 billion every year in what are called direct payments. These payments go to farmers whether crop prices are high or low. Farmers do not even have to grow a crop to get direct payments. Now, Congress wants to cut between $20 and $40 billion from farm subsidies. Even the largest farmers group, the American Farm Bureau Federation, expects that direct payments will end soon. Mary Kay Thatcher is the chief lobbyist for the group. She says the payments are hard to justify politically, but there are proposals to increase subsidies once crop prices go down again. One version would let farmers receive payments with higher market prices. Another would protect a farmer's total income when prices fall. David Orden is an economist with the International Food Policy Institute. He says both versions would anger farmers in other countries. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. The United Nations Environment Program says 200 million Africans go to sleep hungry. That number represents 23% of the population on the continent. A new UN study shows that 8 out of 10 countries facing the worst food shortages are in Africa. Recently, African experts, farmers, and others gathered in Kenya for 2 days of discussion. They debated ways to feed the growing human population in Africa and deal with rising temperatures on Earth's surface. The UN's climate change coordinator for Africa, Richard Muneng, was one of the speakers. He noted a need to increase food production to feed the population. But, he said, it is important to find ways to feed people without destroying forests, rivers, and seas that provide food. At the meetings, Emmanuel Dlamini served as a negotiator for One Africa, a group that fights extreme poverty in Africa. In his opinion, climate change is here to stay. He says African governments and farmers have to look for ways to deal with the changes. Most African countries depend on rain to prepare their farmland and to start growing crops. For the past few years, a lack of rainfall has affected several countries, making their populations dependent on food aid. African farmers say that a combination of unpredictable rain and rising temperatures creates an environment for crop diseases that affects production. The conference also heard from a representative of Nestle, one of the world's largest food companies. Nestle Africa's Hans Jor says farmers need assistance from food processing companies and non-governmental organizations. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
Agriculture Report. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says deforestation has decreased over the past 10 years, but it still continues at a high rate in many countries. Deforestation is mainly caused by the cutting down of tropical forests to provide land for agriculture. The world's total forest area is just over 4 billion hectares. About 13 million hectares of forest were cut down or lost through natural causes each year in the last 10 years. This compares with about 16 million hectares per year during the 1990s. The FAO study covers 233 countries and areas. The study found that Brazil and Indonesia have reduced their deforestation rates. The two countries had the highest loss of forests in the 1990s. In addition, the study noted tree planting programs in countries such as China, India, Vietnam, and the United States. These programs, along with natural expansion of forests in some areas, have added more than 7 million hectares of new forests each year. South America and Africa had the highest yearly loss of forests during the last 10 years. South America lost 4 million hectares. Africa lost almost 3.5 million hectares. However, Asia gained more than 2 million hectares a year in the last decade. In North America and Central America, the forest area remained about the same. In Europe, it continued to expand, but at a slower rate than earlier. Eduardo Rojas is Assistant Director General of FAO's Forestry Department. He said for the first time, the rate of deforestation has decreased around the world. This is the result of efforts taken at local and international levels. Mr. Rojas said countries have improved their forest policies and legislation. They have also provided forests for use by local communities and native peoples, and for the protection of biological diversity. He said this is a welcome message in 2010, the International Year of Biodiversity. However, Mr. Rojas said the rate of deforestation is still very high in many areas. He said countries must strengthen their efforts to better protect and manage their forests. And that's the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. You can find transcripts, MP3s, podcasts, and captioned videos at voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Cassava is a very important crop in many countries. More than 160 million people across Africa depend on the plant for food or to earn money. The continent produces 60% of the world's cassava. In May, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization reported that cassava production had increased by 60% worldwide since 2000. Agriculture experts had been expecting world cassava production to grow even more during the next 10 years. But those expectations have been crushed. Plant diseases are attacking cassava crops in East and Central Africa. 2 diseases are the cassava brown streak virus and the cassava mosaic virus. The Food and Agriculture Organization says brown streak disease does more damage since it affects the root of the crop. Luca Alanovi is the acting director of the FAO in East and Central Africa. He says the agency has taken steps to improve the situation, but the problem is not getting better. He says decisions on how to handle the problem will have a huge impact on the food security of people in Central Africa. Dominique Davout heads the European Union